So welcome everyone again. My name is David Hayne Menendez. I am the Executive Director of Pennsylvania Interfaith Power and Light. Welcome to our second statewide meeting of the year. We do these on a quarterly basis now, so I'm sorry if you've missed us. We do have quarterly and sometimes monthly meetings for chapters. So if you live in Philadelphia, for example, there is a monthly, or the main line, which is just outside Philadelphia, there's a monthly call. Places like Pittsburgh have a quarterly. If you either don't know of your meeting or would like to start or be the convener for a quarterly or monthly meeting, we would be more than happy to discuss that with you. But I am really happy to see you all here today. I don't want to eat up too much time with background and things like that. There are some people on the call that I am not as familiar with. I would love to talk more with them about PIPL. But for now, I will just give some overview of some of the things that are going on currently. As I said, if you can, please rename yourself on the Zoom call, add your location, your congregation, your pronouns, any of those types of things so that we can know more about you. I would like to first start with a land acknowledgement. So we acknowledge the land of the Susquehannock people, upon whose land I am currently inhabiting and sitting, whose connection to this land we remember, and whose presence, past, present, and future, we respect. As part of this nation, as part of our heritage, and as part of the moral obligation to the land to inherit it and keep it for future generations. So in addition to this quarterly statewide meeting, I'm actually enacting a new meeting that I would love maybe some of you to join me at, which is going to be a quarterly congregational member meeting. So this meeting is for everybody all the time. Doesn't matter if you belong to a congregation or not, doesn't matter where in the country you are, any of those things. The quarterly congregation meetings are meant to have those member congregations who support PIPL, who have projects from PIPL, who want to have future projects with PIPL, to come together, to share best practices, to hear about how we can provide grant funding or work on projects together, things like that. Obviously, we can discuss any of those things in these meetings as well or individually, but I would love to have a quarterly meeting where we as a community, especially the community of congregations, can get together. So if you are that person, I will be in touch very soon to bother you to try to come to that meeting. And that will be actually a midday meeting at 12:30 on March 31st. This year, it will also be finally our opportunity to provide our Visionary Award to Maya von Rossum, who is the director of the Delaware River Keepers. That was the 2021 award, but we weren't able to get her actually to get her schedule in line with ours until now. But we are very happy to announce that she will be the awardee of the 2021 Visionary Award. In addition to that, we will be rolling out our congregational toolkit, which was developed in collaboration as a project at the St. Martin of the Field congregation in Philadelphia. And we will also be discussing other ongoing IPL programs. And as I said, ways in which we can help with funding, raise funding, work together with the congregation, do projects that are most relevant, most salient to them, as well as to the moment. Beyond that, for some of you, I've already heard some of you talking about this earlier, was creation care. So last year we planted about 10,000 trees. Over the last 6 or so years, we've planted close to 20,000 trees in Pennsylvania. This year, I hope to get close to 10,000 trees again. So if you are a person who needs a tree, and this could be anything from like a small shrub all the way up to a sycamore, right? Various types of trees, some of which are water resistant, some of which are better in dry areas. You can create riparian buffers. You can create a fence out of trees to ignore your neighbor, whatever you'd like to do with the trees. But essentially, these are entirely free trees, most of which are provided by the Chesapeake Bay Fund, part of their 10 Million Trees project. We have them mostly delivered to central Pennsylvania. If we have enough, we can actually do multiple delivery sites. The distribution is already underway for the spring. We might have some trees left over, maybe about 400 or so, but I can let you know if you contact me. And if you know your congregation, public land near you, private land near you is in need of trees, I can get them for you in the fall. And hopefully work with you, your congregation, or other local groups. Like I went out with 50 Boy Scouts to this one area and planted nearly 200 trees over 2 days. So if those are things that would be of interest to you, let me know. We're also working with quite a lot of other projects related to congregation care, whether it's the removal of invasive species or especially down in the Philadelphia area, also potentially rain gardens, things like that. So a lot of interesting ways that we can do creation care, raised bed gardens, vegetable gardens, things like that. Beyond that, this year, I am very happy to announce that we are the recipient of several large grants. One in particular is a DEP, a Pennsylvania DEP grant, which is a 3-year grant about watershed education. So we will be doing quite a lot of work in central Pennsylvania, Pittsburgh, and Philadelphia, hopefully working with and through congregations to inform residents of those areas about best stormwater practices. We also are the recipient of a climate action campaign grant, which is particularly an advocacy grant. So if you are the type of person who is interested in showing up for an event, for sending a text, an email, a letter, literally getting involved in any way in exerting the pressure, the moral, ethical, faith-based kind of pressure that PIPL does with our elected officials, especially in NEPA or in Philadelphia or Pittsburgh, we welcome you to join us in this effort because we really obviously always need people to jump on board. And that could be also like sign a petition, bring the petition to your congregation, things like that. So small and large, it all counts towards the larger goal of getting the climate provisions of what was Build Back Better and is now renamed, though I never have it on the tip of my tongue. The bill that basically was Build Back Better, kind of like the artist formerly known as Prince. We will be continuing to push with that for the administration, as well as getting other local officials, statewide officials, to exert pressure on the administration and Pennsylvania and federal administrations. Next, the biggest thing that I'll turn over to Kathy Habrowski, who is our development associate at PAIPL, is our bike hike, our annual advocacy bike hike.
Oh, thank you, David. So excited to talk about this with all of you. You all look like you would be able to join us for the bike and hike. We've made it the bike and hike this year, so we're more inclusive of people who do not ride bikes, but will walk or hike throughout their own neighborhood. We're focusing again on 6 regions in a virtual manner, the way we did last year. And the bike and hike is the theme this year is Journey Towards a Cleaner Future. So we'll all be journeying together. If we're biking, we'll be biking 100 miles. If we're walking, we'll be walking 50 miles. And if you would like to register, please reach out to me at outreach@PAIPL and I will help you to get registered. We'll be sharing the website link very soon. I've been already recruiting sponsors and veteran riders from last year, but we want to really increase our ridership. If you go to our website, I'll put a couple of links from our last year's website in the chat where you can see all the fun that our members had on the 2021 bike ride in their blog posts and their photos. Some are videos, some are photos. So it was a really great time. We had so much fun that we're actually increasing the span from 3 weeks to 4 weeks this year. So it will go from May 1st to May 29th. We'll have a virtual opening and closing ceremony, and we'll be posting more and more information as we get closer to May 1st about our potential advocacy topics for each of our regions. We have Harrisburg, Lancaster, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Scranton, and State College. So I see a number of you on the line today from all over the state. So we want to include everybody. If you're not specifically in one of those areas, don't be afraid to register, because you can still ride and walk on trails anywhere near you, even in just in your neighborhood. So that's going to be a lot of fun. So reach out to me at outreach@PAIPL, and I'll share more details as they become available.
Yeah, just to hammer home, like, while we would love everybody to join the specifically organized PIPL walks and rides, if you just walk on your own the 50 miles in your own area, that is perfectly fine. It's all about getting out into nature and having something push you to do so, and that it also contributes to the work of PIPL, both obviously through the fundraising component of what the bike ride is, but also because we try to have activities throughout the month, advocacy calls and weekends of advocacy and actions that people can take that also can engage them to participate. It's a nice moment where the legislator goes on recess, so we're able to hit them while they're home. And then we last year followed through the entirety of the summer to do not only a series of films throughout the summer, but also to do a whole series of advocacy lobby day office visits online, but hopefully this year potentially in person as well. So it's a good opportunity to like really do a lot in a short period of time with a lot of people who are in your area. I would also make the huge argument for any congregation that does this. It's a team building thing. It's a community building thing. You know, like being able to ride with 10, 20 people down a path together and see the nature around you is a really nice activity for all ages.
Absolutely. And leading up to that, we're in a very busy time right now environmentally. Tomorrow is actually World Water Day. David's going to be sharing an email tonight or tomorrow with you about World Water Day, but feel free to Google World Water Day 2022 and you'll find the global website that will talk quite a bit about this year's theme, which is groundwater, making the invisible visible. And there's an opportunity for you to film yourself if you're facile with digital equipment. They call it Take the 1 Minute Challenge, where you can make a 60-second video about how groundwater is important to your life, or just meditate for 60 seconds about how groundwater is important to you. So you'll see more of that to come. And then Saturday is Global Earth Hour, which we've celebrated quite a bit over the past years in my region. We have an organization here called the Green Building Alliance, and they used to host pre-pandemic actual events where you could watch the city power down at night during Earth Hour, but they haven't been able to do that for a little while. So Earth Hour has been in existence since, at least 10 years, since 2007. And people around the world have been celebrating this date by turning off their non-essential power, typically lights, for at least 1 hour on a Saturday night between 8:30 and 9:30 p.m. your local time, to demonstrate that climate change is a real concern for all of us. So that's next Saturday. You'll be getting an email about that too. So I encourage you to take a look at that. There will be suggestions for how you can celebrate with your friends or family or alone during that hour. I'm sure you can think of lots of ideas on your own as well. So watch for more information on Earth Hour. And then in the next month, more information on Earth Day and Arbor Day coming up as well. Thanks.
And then the very last thing, other than just a plug for people to sign up to our newsletter and fill out surveys that we have floating around online and in our newsletter, joining our policy call. I'm more than happy to answer policy questions after our speakers about like what's going on with the legislator and things like that. The last thing I'll plug is just the fact that IPL, our national organization, we're an affiliate of that organization, also has a IPL film screening that congregations can register for. So like you as an individual can't have your own private screening, but they will provide, I believe, the film for free. And it's Youth v. Gov. It's about a legal lawsuit by essentially the youth of America against the government, demanding that they take seriously the responsibility for having a future for them. You know, young people rising up and saying that this is no longer acceptable. for them, for the life that they're going to live. So without further ado, I am very, very happy to introduce both of our speakers tonight, and then I will turn over to them. We will then have questions after both speakers are done. So jot down any questions that you might have. You're also welcome to shoot them in the chat, and then we will address them afterwards. But our first speaker for tonight is Gregory Wozniak. He is a certified energy manager and a certified measurement and verification professional with the Association of Energy Engineers. Utilizing over 40 years of experience in the electric utility and energy services industry, Mr. Wozniak manages A Wozniak Associates, which he founded in 2002. A hands-on business owner, Greg directs all operations and sales of energy management and consulting services provided by his firm, including their ancillary services to a broad range of energy industry clients. His energy engineering and utility expertise, along with a strong background in electromechanical systems and facility management, combine to support a full spectrum of energy conscious appliance applications that are helping clients to advance through optimal energy conservation planning and positioning themselves for alternative energy options. Holding several certifications and active memberships in related professional energy societies, Mr. Wozniak remains current in the evolving energy industry. As part of his energy consulting business, Mr. Wozniak engages in collaborative efforts with organizations that promote energy efficiency and sustainability. Second speaker is Don Fitzgee, a part-time pastor of worship serving the Lancaster Church of the Brethren, and a part-time sales representative, lighting consultant for Bottom Line Systems, a company specializing in LED lighting conversions for businesses, nonprofits, and churches. He is a graduate of Elizabethtown College and Eastern Baptist Theological Seminary, now Palmer Seminary, a published author, and has held denominational leadership positions in the Church of the Brethren. He and his wife, Carolyn, live in Mannheim, near Lancaster, in their house bedecked with solar panels, and are parents to 2 young adults. His presentation will focus on how churches can save money and help save God's creation by converting to LED lighting. So without further ado, please help me welcome Greg Wozniak.
Hello, everybody. Thanks for being here tonight. Tonight, I'm going to talk about energy conservation and how we can use it in our homes, our places of worship every day. So hopefully you'll learn something about energy conservation, and maybe we'll even learn a little bit about ourselves today. So let me, all right. Getting my technology buttons in line here. One thing we have to ask ourselves when it comes to energy conservation is what's like most important to us. Is the dollars you spend on energy more important to you, or how much energy do I use? Is that more important, or is your carbon footprint more important? You have these are important questions you ask yourself. They're all really interlinked, but if dollars spent is more important to you, and when your utility bill comes in, if you're looking at only the dollars spent, well, that is related to how much you're using, but energy costs are related to energy rates, which fluctuate, and it's something that you don't necessarily have control of. The energy rate, even if you shop for energy, there's still a chance that when they go up, they all go up. Okay. And then how much you use, well, if you look at your energy bill, and the first thing you look at is how much you've used, and I think you're getting on the right track, because that's something that you can control. You cannot control the rates, but you can control how much you use. And then if you're interested in your carbon footprint, well, that's a relationship back again to how much you use. So the least you lose, the lower amount of energy you use, the smaller your carbon footprint is going to be. Now, tonight I'm going to talk more about energy in facilities, which will be basically electricity and gas. But as we all know, carbon footprint pretty much covers anything that you do, whether you travel by airplane, cars, or whatever.
Greg, I can't see your screen yet. Did you actually push the screen share button?
Oh, I'm sorry. Haven't I been shown the screen?
Not,
all right.
Yeah.
Hold on. I'm sorry.
You're an energy expert, not a Zoom expert.
Right. Let's see.
There you go.
All right. Well, these were what you guys missed.
Oh, that photo is so nice.
So let's talk about electricity first. Electricity, as we know, I'll use my cursor. It's small, but you should be able to see it. It starts in a power plant where they burn fossil fuels or nuclear or whatever, but that's the energy going into the plant to create the electricity. It goes through a series of distribution and transmission lines, and the current is changed and the voltage is changed until it finally gets to your facility for use. So that's how it travels. Now, what I wanted to show here, I don't know if anybody's seen these charts or not, but if you look to the left side of this chart shows all the energy and resources that has to go into actually making a kilowatt of energy. If you go to the right of the chart, you will see right here, here's residential, commercial, and industrial. About two-thirds of the energy we put into making energy, I'm just going to say the resources we put into making energy, only about a third of that actually comes out as being usable energy. And then by the time we break it down to residential, commercial, or industrial, you're down to maybe a fifth or a seventh. So, and then after that, after it leaves this flow chart, it flows into your home, and now you have the efficiency of your appliances and other items that are robbing the output of the energy ever so more. So when you think about it, a very, very small change on the right side of the scale, wherever you're using energy, makes a huge difference on the left side of the scale as far as resources going into it. Now, natural gas, we drill from a well, we pipe it, we put it through pressurization stations, and finally it comes through a meter and comes into your home. Natural gas also has an input and output. You can see here that natural gas is actually maybe a little bit more efficient as far as getting it from the well to your home. But again, right here, residential, the amount of natural gas that comes out residentially is fairly small. The overall consumption is relatively close to the amount of resources that are put into it. But again, the more you can save at this end, the more you save at the resources that are used for drilling and getting the natural gas to you. And then also you can see in the natural gas, there's also about maybe a fifth or so that's used for making electricity. So if you were thinking that how much energy do I use, then that's where you need to focus. You need to focus on how much you use, not so much on how much you spend. If you can get how much you use down, you can get how much you spend down. What happens is if utility rates go down, people's utility bills go down, but their actual usage may not go down. And the usage is really what affects the climate. So anyway, so that was just a real quick overarching discussion on energy use, where it comes from, and why it makes sense to actually try to reduce as much as you want for yourself and for the climate. So whether or not you use energy at your church, your home, or your place of business, you can actually affect the amount of energy used in all of these places. More so at your home, maybe a little less at your place of worship, and maybe even a little less at where you work. But if you're in charge of any one of these facilities where you are in charge of your home, then you have a bigger influence. So the way to get started on reducing energy is to actually do an energy audit. Now, you can do an energy audit, a fairly decent energy audit on your own. You don't necessarily need to hire a professional. Start with your home. You can look at your church, or you could do them together. But the basics of an energy audit is pretty simple. What you want to do is you want to capture all the energy that you use. Look at your utility bills over the last few years. Try to get an idea how much energy your facility uses. Also, to get the square foot of your facility, and then divide that by the energy use, and you'll get the kilowatts per square foot or MCF per square foot. And professionally, we change everything to BTUs per square foot because it's more transferable to other facilities. Once you get that, then you kind of get yourself a baseline. You can use that reference. You can go online to find out what the average church uses and things like that, so you can get an idea where you're at. So then after you analyze utility bills, you want to look at the systems within your facility, and then come up with ways of reducing those systems, which we'll talk a little bit right now. So basically, get your utility bills, create a spreadsheet or whatever, and get your how much your usage is, your monthly cost, and then they'll give you a general cost per kilowatt hour. Now, this isn't your cost per kilowatt hour for purchasing energy. This is just a unit cost. And so what you want to do then you could actually take those using the right conversion factors, change them all to BTUs per hour per square foot. So analyze your energy use a little bit. Now, in a professional audit, you'd get real fancy graphs and things like that, but you can get a general idea how much energy you're using. And utility companies right now, a lot of them have smart meters. Electric companies anyway have smart meters that you should get in touch with your electric company, or look on their website and see if you have a smart meter, and you may be able to dig down to actually your hours of use, when you're using, how much you're using per hour or per day or whatever. So get online with your energy company and see whether or not you can sign up for better data from your energy meter, so that you can analyze your energy use. So now I'm going to go through the systems that I mentioned earlier quickly, and these are the systems in your buildings, wherever, that you can look at and get some and see how and where you're using energy, and I'll throw out some ideas about savings. So first is lighting, which I'm not going to talk about because Dawn's going to talk about that. But every building has lighting in it, and there's leaps and bounds in as far as technology changes for saving energy on your lighting. HVAC stands for heating, ventilation, and air conditioning. Your home has heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, and your churches and your places of worship do as well. So what you want to look for there is you want to make sure that your duct work, there's no leaks in your duct work, that if you have a boiler system, you're not leaking any water out of your boiler system, because replacing water in your boiler system will destroy your equipment. So just look for efficiencies where you would be losing power or losing the heat or cooling that these items are generating. Get them tuned up. I mean, have a professional HVAC company tune up your equipment, especially your larger equipment. So another thing about HVAC work is controls. Control your temperature in your building. So in your home, when you're sleeping, you can get a programmable thermostat and have it set back when you're not at home or when you're sleeping. In your places of worship, a lot of places of worship they may only be used on the weekends. And so you could actually dial back your church during the week if you're not going to have services there. You can dial, and then another thing, when you dial it back, you can dial back, I don't know, 55, 45 degrees. You can bring it back pretty low, but you have to watch out for your organs and pianos and things like that. You have to get an idea of what's in your building. But dial back the temperature. The more you dial back the temperature, the more energy you're going to save. One thing is when you actually do set the clocks or start dialing it back, where you're doing it manually, I've noticed that when we're talking with some churches about dialing back, they kind of dial back the temperature of their church after the congregation leaves. Well, what happens is you should dial it back before they leave. And the reason for that is you want to dial back before you start opening doors and letting everybody out. If you dial it back after everybody leaves, well, you're going to actually introduce a lot of cool air into the building and have the furnace or the heating system running for no reason at all, or the cooling system. So dial back a little earlier than the end of the end of the service. Also, I just shown, like, with an analysis, here's the boilers. You can see when these boilers are running. This boiler has a night setback, so you can see it going off and on. This would be the temperature profiles that were taken. These things, the only reason I'm putting these graphs up there is to show you that it really works. It works to dial these things back, and you can do it with a programmable thermostat. As far as going in and changing all your equipment, work on controls first. It's less expensive, and you can actually put in these programmable thermostats on your own. You could talk to your boiler manufacturer about maybe being able to tie into one of the circuitries of the boiler to have it shut down or have it dialed back. So another thing is water. Water is becoming more of a precious resource that we have. And so try to look for any leaks. Don't let any water go down the drain. You're not only paying for water, the cost of the water, you're paying for sewage cost, and that's going up way high too. So also hot water. Anyway, the hot water, you're getting hit with the water, the sewage, and you're getting hit with the cost of the heating the water. So make sure that your hot water system is in tune. Insulate the piping the best you can. If in your place of worship you may have your sink or your restroom might be in the back, and it may be the whole length of the church before it gets from the water tank to the faucet. Get a small. And people turn on a faucet and they never get hot water. They don't wait that long. So that hot water is coming through the pipes and it gets cold again. So I'd recommend getting a small under sink electric hot water heater, either instantaneous or a little 3-gallon reservoir one. And you could put that on a timer as well. So it's only heating water for whenever you're having services. Look at all the equipment you have, anywhere from coolers, refrigerators. The key is turn things off. The more you can turn things off, the better the better you are. If you don't need it, turn it off. Don't. And I always recommend to, like, 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning, just take a walk through your facility and listen for things that are on and look for things that are on that don't need to be on. You'll be surprised how much you're going to find things that run all night that don't have to be on, whether it's a simple exhaust fan or if it's a light on somewhere or if it's a commode running or something. So every once in a while, walk through your building late at night to see if anything's turned on. The building envelope is basically keeps the cold air, is the barrier between the outside and the inside. So you want to make sure, one thing is you don't have any moisture problems of moisture getting in, but also make sure that things are tight. Make sure that you have weather sealed around all your doors. Make sure that look up in suspended ceilings. Make sure there's no breaches to the outside. Like right here in this picture right here, you can see that above the suspended ceiling is a metal deck roof, and there's no treatment for air sealing, and there's no insulation on this suspended ceiling. So it's basically a giant heat sink. Now the roof itself has insulation as part of the roofing system on the exterior, but the if as I went up and looked into this building, we find you can see daylight through some of these areas. So the same with windows. Make sure the windows are sealed. As far as putting out the money for insulated windows, unless your windows are really in need of replacement, you might want to push an expense like that a little bit further down the line. And so just look for breaches that allow air in. Allowing air really does take a lot to heat back up. So make sure everything's sealed properly and then insulate. And then this is some thermal images you can see around the windows. You can see here on this wall right here, you can actually see the stud work where thermal bridging has happened in this building. And then you can see where air is always going to want to go at the top of your building. So if you're going to start sealing your building up, look up top first, because air is going to rise and go out of the top. And as it's going out of the top, it's going to start sucking in from the bottom. So you want to make sure you seal up your buildings. And then this is an audit. A professional audit would give you some kind of return on investment analysis. You can do a simple payback. You can get a bid on maybe having something done and get a general idea through internet research of how much energy something may save. But try on your own and get familiar with what an energy audit's all about. So I always recommend just look through your buildings, look for low-hanging fruit. There is so much information on the internet right now about how to button up your building, how to save energy. Just do a little bit of research on your own. Get a team of people, walk around. Everybody takes notes on their own, compare your notes, and put together some sort of a plan. So like I was saying before, the reducing energy is going to save you money. It's going to keep you healthy. It's going to help save the planet. So that's about all I have. I threw this slide in here about reducing your carbon footprint. So 10% of electric reduction in a 5,000 square foot office building it is, but you'll have $700 to $1,000 in savings. You'll save 14,500 pounds of carbon emissions. It's like planting 300 mature trees. You guys were talking about planting trees, and you can get one passenger car removed from the road. So thank you very much. I'll hang around for questions afterwards.
Thank you so much. Yeah, that was really wonderful, Greg. I'm excited to see how you and Don also interact in your approaches, and I'm also very happy that I now have these slides recorded because they can be reused and reviewed, and I definitely will start trying to push my congregation to do more. But I want to remind everybody that save your questions to the end and feel free to drop them in the chat. But I want to make sure that Don gets enough time as well, and then we will address questions to both Greg and Don. So without further ado, please, Don, take it away.
All right. Are you seeing my screen?
Yeah, Don, we're seeing it. Oh, wait, it went away for a second. Now we see a bridge.
Okay, so I got to keep it over there.
Yeah, you got to keep it in front of the screen. There you go.
All right. Very good. Well, I appreciate the opportunity to be with you tonight and to share, I'm going to say share the floor, I guess, share the screen with Greg. I will admit that when I saw my bio next to his, I had a sinking feeling. Clearly, Greg brings considerably more expertise here tonight to the table than I do. I'm really not a lot more than a pretty face for our organization, which gives you some idea what kind of trouble we're in if I'm the pretty face. But what I do bring is a longtime interest in sustainability, a love for saving money, and some basic knowledge of how converting to LED lighting brings those two interests together in ways that can benefit your church or your organization. And I think those interests grew out of my time at Elizabethtown College, where I studied with Donald Crable, who was the author of the acclaimed book, The Upside Down Kingdom, where he talked about living differently as a result of being a Christian. And then also at Eastern Baptist Seminary, where I was research assistant for Dr. Ron Sider, who's written extensively on peace and poverty and sustainability, creation care, and founder of what now is known as Christians for Social Action, because the word evangelicals was despoiled so thoroughly in recent years that they got rid of that name. I also bring some experience in both church and nonprofit settings. For nearly 17 years, I worked as a development officer for Kobe's Family Services, Christian nonprofit specializing in ministries to kids and families. In addition to some fundraising and communication responsibilities there, I also had a primary role in managing our 4 properties. I'm an ordained minister, currently serving 30 hours a week as pastor of worship at Lancaster Church of the Brethren. And we don't often live it out as well as we could. The Brethren claims simple living as one of our core values, which I think fits in with what we're talking about here tonight. Currently at our church, I'm listening to our property team chair screaming about big increases in our electric bills. And it would be worse if I hadn't talked them into converting our exterior lighting over to LED a couple of years ago. And if we hadn't replaced our 500-watt cans and fluorescent tubes in the Family Life Center with energy efficient LEDs. So I'd gained some familiarity with the benefits of LED lighting during my final years at Kobe's. And so when I was looking for the next thing to do after Kobe's in 2018, I was attracted to an opportunity with Bottom Line Systems. They were at that time a fairly new player in the renewables area. So we've kind of grown up together over these past few years, and I've learned a lot. So now I have kind of an interesting balance between church work and LED sales, and the LED part helps organizations save money and helps me put my kids through college. So it's a win-win. I like it when doing the right thing from a faith perspective also pays off financially. And as we know, that isn't always true. Sometimes discipleship is costly and certainly does not pay off financially, despite what the proponents of the health and wealth gospel will tell you. But when I put solar panels on my house back in 2010, I found out that I could do well by doing good. And I think that's also true with LED lighting. You can save money and help save God's creation at the same time. So let me walk you through here a little bit. So we are Bottom Line Systems. We're currently based in York County with primary staff located in Lancaster and Dauphin counties. Co-owners are General Manager Jeff Lambert and Operations Manager Bob Lingenfield. And I believe Jeff was peeking in on me here a little bit earlier. So we'll see, he can straighten me out if I mess anything up here tonight. The company was incorporated in 2014 as Bottom Line Sunshine, was a solar finance company, subsequently transitioned into LED lighting. And now that's what we do. We specialize in LED replacement and conversion projects. We are growing rapidly despite the pandemic. Total sales in 2021 were nearly $1 million, which is good for us. We've been on a growth path. We have worked with the Georgia chapter of IPL and presented 2 church proposals there just in the last couple of weeks, and also have had a connection with PA IPL here. I'm a little foggy on the details, but I think there was somebody that got us connected with the Catholic Diocese of Philadelphia and Father Joseph, and we'll talk a little bit more about those projects later. We have distributorships with MetroTech LED Lighting and Glow Global Lighting Organization. Most of our products come with a 10-year warranty. Tubes to replace fluorescent tubes come with a 5-year warranty. We have our own installation team and also rely on some lighting subcontractors for larger jobs. Do a lot of work here in southeastern Pennsylvania, but have done work in 12 states east of the Mississippi. Have a satellite office down in Georgia. and we are trade allies with the company rebate programs so that we can obtain the maximum available rebates for our clients. And we do the paperwork for all the rebates. We offer 5% discounts to nonprofits and churches. Just a quick look there at where we've worked, the dark blue, and where we're got some things pending in the lighter blue. And I'm not going to spend much time on some of these slides. You will get the slideshow afterwards, and you can look at things if you want to and click on some of the links that are there. Our customers, we've done a lot of work for car dealerships, some quick serve restaurants, retail spaces, just really starting to get into churches and nonprofits. One of the reasons for that is that for a time, at least in the PPL electric area, rebates were not readily available for nonprofits, and that has started to change. So it makes it a little bit more doable for a church and a nonprofit to think about doing an LED conversion project. Just a list of some of our customers there. If you're from the Lancaster area, you might recognize some of those. Again, you can look at that later. The nonprofits on there, Philadelphia Catholic Diocese, Jubilee Ministries, which we'll look at later, and there have been a few others as well. Why LED? 4 reasons. Reduced energy bills. LED is the most efficient lighting technology available today and produces more lumens per watt than alternative sources. Interior conversions typically save close to 50% in lighting costs, and exterior savings are as high as 75%. So you get the idea that this can reduce your usage by quite a bit and save you some money. Second is improved lighting. LED lights provide excellent color rendering, better light coverage, and you all remember the old T12 tubes that buzzed and flickered in your buildings. LED, you have none of those kinds of issues. Eliminating maintenance is one of the big things. LED requires virtually no maintenance. As I mentioned, I think already, our tubes come with 5-year warranty. Most other products 10. So you can kind of fix it and forget it for a while and save money and time on maintenance over a period of time. The stuff that's warranted for 10 years, depending on your usage hours, may last much longer than 10 years. And of course, environmental benefits, which I think we're all conscious of in this group. No toxic chemicals in LED, lowering our carbon footprint by lowering our energy usage, and less waste to the long time usage that you get out of LED. So just some of the reasons why you might want to consider LED projects for your church or organization. So our process is pretty simple. If you're interested in looking at whether LED might be right for your organization, the first step is to give us a yell, and one of our team members goes out and goes to the job and inventories the existing lights. We euphemistically call it counting lights, and there's a lot of counting lights and figuring out what the wattages are, and just kind of getting a full inventory of the area that we're looking at so that we know what currently is there. Then we take that information and we generate a free turnkey proposal for the customer's review, substituting LED products for what is there. The proposals, which we'll look at here shortly, include product specifications, utility rebates, which vary from utility to utility. Some are better than others. Energy savings, the payback period that Gary talked about, simple payback, and financing options that are available. We take care of applying for the rebates and order the materials and complete the installation typically within 6 to 8 weeks of a signed proposal, and perform a walkthrough, collect the final payment, and then the rebate arrives a couple months after completion. So I thought what I'd spend most of the time doing here is just to look briefly at a few case studies. So I have the Lidditz Church of the Brethren interior, the Grantham Brethren and Christ Church exterior. These are 2 projects that we haven't done yet. We're currently in conversation with the churches, but I think we're going to do them. I've had some pretty good feedback on them. And then the third one there, Jubilee Ministries, we'll talk about that one as well. So the way our proposals are set up, we always have a savings profile. So we calculated what we think are the current interior annual lighting expenses at the Lidditz Church of the Brethren. The Lidditz Church of the Brethren is a huge facility, a church plant, and beginning in August, they're going to be hosting a Christian school, which is going to take over pretty much the whole facility during the week. So we did our calculations based on the usage that they're going to be having come August, and calculating the lighting expense. It's it's totaling up the wattage of their existing lights, figuring out the operating hours, and multiplying that by the their electricity rate that they're currently paying. Churches are a little harder than businesses to figure out the operating hours because, you know, business, they come in the morning, they turn on the lights and the lights stay on until they close and they go home and the lights go off, and it's easier to know. Churches, there's a little bit more guesswork involved in that, but we try to come up with something that makes sense. In this savings profile, we're projecting that we will lower their annual lighting expense from $19,000 to $9,000 with an annual electricity savings of $10,000. If you go down here to the yellow bar, a savings of 53%. And then we also throw in a figure for maintenance and air conditioning savings. LED throws less heat than standard tubes. And that's one way they save a little. And then, as I mentioned, the maintenance is not an issue. Total monthly savings is just broken down. Some of the same information broken down monthly. We show the rebate here of $3,700. And basic payback would be if all you had was the electricity and maintenance savings. This project would pay for itself in 3.72 years. When you include the rebate, it gets down to just under 3.5 years that it'll pay for itself. That's on products warranted for either 5 or 10 years. We have a loan profile down at the bottom here. Basically, this just shows that monthly savings would be around $1,200. You could structure a loan that your monthly payments are $965 so that you actually could be making money even while you're paying your loan off. And we'll talk about the KNIFE, the organization that we recommend financing through. This Lidditz project is a large project. It's a $51,000 project. And then less the rebate here is split up into two. There's a straight couple dollars a tube rebate, which is what this $2,700 is, and a $992 additional rebate that's calculated based partly on annual kilowatt hours saved. And this job is a large number of tubes. They've got fixtures with 4-foot fluorescent tubes throughout. I think it's close to 1,500 tubes, something like that. And the cheapest way to do it is to remove the existing tubes. If your existing fixtures are in good shape, we can rewire your existing fixtures to bypass the ballasts and then install LED tubes. And we often do that in cases where the existing lights are still in pretty decent shape. And then there are other options as well, such as door kits and flat panels that you can replace your 2x4 troffers with. And then we just have an extensive listing of all the things that are involved there. You get the idea of the size of that facility. So that's the Lidditz Church of the Brethren. The Grantham Brethren in Christ Church, which is the church located next to Messiah College. I was driving by that church for the last 5 years, going up, and both of my kids are Messiah, one a recent graduate and the other one is a student there. And I kept driving past this church and seeing that they hadn't replaced their exterior lighting with LED yet. So I finally reached out and made a contact there. And if you have exterior lighting that is on from dusk to dawn, you should have replaced it about 5 years ago or more. There's the payback on that kind of situation is just tremendous. So we calculated their current exterior lighting expense at $11,600. We're going to drop that down to $4,000 for electricity savings of $74.81, some additional maintenance savings, 64% reduction. Nice rebate on this, $6,400. That's part of the PPL electric area, which tends to have good rebates. Payback period of 1.76 years on lights that are warranted for 10 and will last longer than that. And the main part of this job, this is a $20,000 project, less the $6,400. So you get down around $14,000 project. And the lion's share of the job is they've got 34 area lights on poles that we would be replacing with new fixtures and then a few other odds and ends there. The third one we'll look at just briefly is Jubilee Ministries. Jubilee Ministries is a nonprofit in Lebanon County that has a number of thrift stores that raises money for prison ministry at the Lebanon County Prison. And their Anvil facility has a warehouse where they had very old and inefficient high bays. And we replaced those high bays with UFO high bays that are individually controllable so that they could light the areas that they need lit and not have them all on or all off. We went from a current annual lighting expense of $82 down to $29, $5,300 savings. Some maintenance, again, you're familiar with how this goes at this point. Also had some exterior stuff involved there as well. And So that's kind of how that one goes. The links are there for all of these proposals. If you want to look at those later when this gets emailed out to you, you can take a look at that. I also threw in the St. Veronica Parish and the St. Hugh of Cluny, which are the two in the Philadelphia Catholic Diocese that we did. And they utilized the financing that's available to do their projects. I understand. Those are not my projects. Financing, so all of our proposals have the financing information there on the bottom left of the first page. Some of our customers obtain financing for their LED projects through the National Energy Improvement Fund. You can read more about NIFE. Basically, they exist to provide financing for energy efficiency kinds of projects. And as we saw on one of those proposals, often you can structure it so that your monthly loan payments are less than your monthly savings that your lights get for you by converting to LED. So there's some links there. You can learn more about NIFE. If you want to learn more about what we do, or you're interested in having somebody come out and look at your building, here's where you can learn more about us. Feel free to reach out to me. I'll be glad to come out and count your lights and start the process and see whether LED makes sense for your organization at this point in your organization's life. So that's what I have for you tonight.
Great. Thank you so much, Don. So I'm going to stop your screen share. There you go. I do know that there were a few questions down in the chat. Honestly, the nice thing for both your presentations is not only the step-by-step elements of it. I really also really appreciated the math of it. I know that sometimes people glaze over when they see numbers, but for me, more and more, I just really like seeing what's the bottom line. And one of the things that I kept seeing is like your 10 to 20 year range in savings. I kept thinking to myself, that is a solar array. Like when congregations are like, well, we can't get the equity to put solar on our roof. That was $100,000 to $200,000 in savings. You are spending that money. If you do this efficiency, you save that money. In 10 years, you can buy an entire solar array for your roof and then not have additional price gouging by peak energy and everything else, and also just do better for the environment. So, I mean, in my mind, that was what I kept looking at was like, that's a solar array. That's a solar array. That's a solar array. That's another project. So,
and that is a selling point that we use sometimes, is saying you're going to spend the money anyway. It's just a matter of whether you're going to send it to your electric company or whether you're going to invest it in new lights that you'll invest that money for a few years and you'll get out from underneath paying those bills after it's paid off.
Yeah. So I'm just going to roll back a little bit. Wendy, you said for Greg, can you button up a house or church too much? For example, like, could it result in poor air quality? Is that a thing that could actually happen?
Yeah, there are guidelines for that. Like for a house, you don't want to button it up more than say 0.35 air changes per hour, and that's all calculated by the like if so for a house, there's something called a blower door test where they actually do a test on your home they put a big fan in the door and they suck air out of your house. And as we're sucking the air out of your house, we're measuring that. In that, there's the equation between how much air we suck out of your house to keep it at a certain negative pressure helps us decide how leaky your home is. And if your home has a natural ventilation of less than 0.35 air changes per hour, then it's recommended that you install mechanical ventilation. So you can button up a building to a point where it's too tight. And with that, once you reach that point, then it's recommended that you put in some type of controllable ventilation. So yeah, you button it up too tight, but then at least you're controlling the ventilation rates at that point. So,
and is the main risk things like, I don't know, what's it called when your basement has gases?
Radon?
Yeah, is it like radon and stuff like that that's the main concern, or something else?
Well, radon's a different issue. I think if you have a radon issue, you have to concentrate on the radon itself. Ventilating, you want to get rid of the radon at the point underneath the foundation where it's at. You really don't want it to even come into your house and then try to ventilate radon. It has more to do with just your everyday breathing. You know what I mean? You know, the what we put out, your cooking, any sort of contaminants you generate with inside the home. You want to make sure that you can you get fresh air to clear out those contaminants.
Yeah,
but that's true. You can over tighten. It'll be very hard to over tighten an old building though. But that's a good question though.
I was thinking that for my house. I was like, I don't think I could over tighten this.
Yeah, it'd be difficult, but
yeah,
it can be done.
I'm essentially living on a screen porch. So our in the South Hills of Pittsburgh, our radiators are recessed in the walls, and they've been that way since 1938. And our house, we're in the middle of a renovation project. We essentially have no insulation in the house, no flashing, no air sealing, no insulation, no thermal boundary. So I will share with you, because this might help Greg or Don answer. We had another question from Joy about insulating above the drop ceilings. We recently spray foamed our entire attic rafter area. I'm so excited. With open cell spray foam insulation by a company called Insulrite in the South Hills. And I've been wanting to do this for 20 years, and it made an enormous difference already. And Greg might recommend something like this in the ceiling for the condition that he showed with that ceiling above the drop ceiling. So we'll have to let him speak to that. But I will tell you that in the last snow we had on Friday and Saturday of last week, we had a lovely blanket of snow across our entire roof. There was no warm areas where the heat was leaking out from the house. There was no heat transfer on the rafters. It was just one big, thick, lovely white blanket of snow across the whole roof. I was just thrilled. So it proved that it worked. There are complications. I mean, that is complicated if you're going to do that. So reach out to Greg or I or Don if you're contemplating that, but you want to make sure you choose the right product and apply it in the right manner. But it's possible. It's not that expensive in the scheme of things. And the sooner you do something like that, the better.
And another benefit, if you think about how much you pay per square foot of your home for usable space, the attic is a storage space, but it's kind of usable and not kind of usable. I mean, you can get up there and you can put things up there and go back up there 4 or 5 years later and find out through freeze and thaw that they've just been destroyed. Whereas what Kathy's talking about, if you insulate the underside of your roof, now you're bringing your attic into more into the conditioned space. So now your attic becomes a more usable space for storage without destroying things through the heat and cold that goes on. So
yeah, and like you were saying, Greg, you're reducing the stack effect too on your slide where you showed the stack effect. So when your home is really leaky, it's essentially a big chimney. So anything you store in your garage or basement, whether that's laundry detergent in a paper box or gasoline in a lawnmower, tiny little bits of those particles and that pollution those toxic chemicals are coming up through your home every single day, and you're breathing that. So by buttoning up your home with a thermal boundary, the attic, as much of the exterior walls as you can do, and we'll be doing the band joist or rim joist area as well. So we'll be neutralizing our stack effect as much as we can without gutting the house. And that's if we get to that point where we tighten up too much, then we might have to bring in fresh air, like Greg was talking about, to replenish our air supply. So you don't want to build up those pollutants. And a shameless plug for Raucous too. I know some of you actually, I think Bob Mitchell might be participating in the current Raucous cohort. Is that true, Bob?
That's true, and I think my wife attended the meeting tonight, and I went to this instead. But yeah, it's very useful.
You're tag teaming. So in the Allegheny County, we have this great group called ROCUS, which stands for Reducing Outdoor Contaminants in Indoor Spaces. So anyone who lives out this way can really make a difference for themselves and for the larger region by measuring your air quality over a period of about 8 weeks. You'll learn a lot about your own air quality, and you'll contribute to the knowledge base of the region.
So Joy, I see you have your hand up. Do you want to add to your question, or?
Yeah, so I mean, instead of like a residential space, like above a drop ceiling. So like, for example, at my church, we have an area that sometimes leaks because some of our slate goes onto a rubber roof, then that causes leakage. But that's also, I think, where we also have this issue where there's no insulation above the drop ceiling. There, I don't think spray foam would be a good choice. Are there other options?
I would say that before you do any kind of spray foam or do any kind of insulation, you have to get rid of water migration, because you'll just hide a problem. So if you're getting any kind of leakage, you have to do that first. If you're actually going to be replacing a roof, you might have the option of putting some insulation on the exterior face of the roof before you put the roof on. As far as putting insulation on drop ceilings, I've been to places where they've actually put a lighter insulation right on the drop ceiling. I don't know that. I haven't seen it very often. I've seen it more for sound deadening than I've seen it for anything else. I would say that take care of the leaks, to make sure you take care of the leaks first, and then consider the spray foam.
Well, the leaks are because the slate comes down, it damages the rubber, and then there's a leak, and then it gets repaired. So it's we can't nature, unfortunately.
Yeah, you can't whatever you do, don't hide that leak. So if you see it leaking and you know where it leaks, if you cover it, and then all you're going to do is you're just going to get damp insulation.
And then mold and things like that grow in the insulation.
Yeah. I mean,
maybe you need different roofing materials.
Yeah,
definitely new flashing.
Yeah. Bob, is your point to the same issue, or is it something else, Bob?
It's something else. So if you want to finish this, that's fine.
Sure. So there was a few other questions also in the chat that I just wanted to make sure that we got to. So Wendy also asked for Don, do you work with churches who do their own installation but purchase the lights from you?
Explore that. I don't know if we've done that or not, but I think we could explore that. And Jeff Lambert is on here. I don't know if he's still listening or not. He might have something to say about that, but see if he's paying attention. Not so far. All right. Yeah, I think we could explore that.
There he is.
Hello.
Hey, there's Jeff.
Thanks for calling me out there, Don. To answer that question, we have worked with organizations in the past where they installed, and the point being they were trying to save money by doing the installation. However, the rebate program that Don spoke about earlier is only available for a partner with them, which we qualify for, and your workers unfortunately would not. So your savings would be negated by not getting a rebate.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
Thanks, Jeff.
You're welcome.
Bob, you said air exchange rate is considered to be very important for aerosol transmission of COVID. Yeah, that's true. That's actually one of the things that I was thinking of when they were talking about it earlier. Let me see. Other questions? I don't see any other questions. So Bob, you're up.
So mostly I want to thank Greg for, he came to my church. I don't know if you remember me, Greg, back in 2018. And did a, really complete analysis of the lighting. So this was an LED replacement plan and with all the rebates and everything. So I wanted to, first of all, just thank you a lot, Greg, for doing that. And report that I think we're finally going to do it this year. I'm feel embarrassed to say that, first we had a changeover in ministers, then we went into the COVID time. And I think, now we're regrouping this year and really going to do it. So I don't know if can we, direct some, credit to you, for doing that analysis, or.
Did you do that? You did that through the Duquesne Lights rebate program, right?
Yeah, we were talking to
Yeah.
Cindy, what's her name?
Van
Horn, yeah.
Right. Yeah,
So-
I did that through Duquesne Light Company. Yes.
Okay. But do we need to close the loop back with you somehow? I don't want to leave, I want to make sure you get credit or whatever for.
It does. Yeah. It doesn't really matter. It's whether to point it back to me or not. It's not. That's not important. It's important that you get your work done, though.
Okay, and I guess for both you and Don, so there were kind of rebate numbers from back in 2018, 2019. Is it kind of roughly the same now? Or
I haven't looked at the catalog for 2022, but you the rebating on that, you'd probably want to get back in touch with Duquesne Light on that.
Sure.
To make sure you get to reopen that, to see what they are. So those programs, they change every so often. So yeah,
That's been our experience too.
And I don't know, and I don't want to give you bad information that I haven't studied yet. So
It seems unlikely that it would still be the same because the rebates they change the rules, they change the way it's calculated, it goes up, it goes down, and it's hard to know where it's going sometimes.
Okay, and Don, I think we really do plan to go forward and actually do it finally. And we were working with somebody to supply the lighting and so on, but I don't know if that person's still around. But if that has fallen through, I guess even though we're in Pittsburgh, we could reach out to you to.
You could. We actually have some projects that we're working on out that way, so I think that would work. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
it's all coming back to me now, Bob, as I'm sitting here thinking about your project. I remember the lighting in the sanctuary alone. That I remember that highlighting, that spotlighting, and all that. Yeah. Good. I'm glad to see you're moving along. It takes a while.
I still have your spreadsheet. That's our basis.
So okay. I'm curious about the time frame for some of the, like, from initial evaluation through completion. Like, I know that's a bit of a hard question to answer because obviously every project is different size and different elements and things like that. But like on average, especially for a congregation, what is the like time commitment of the congregation for like having your guys there, or like getting the final information back from you so that you can do that next step if you choose to? Is there like an average that generally comes out?
You mean like as far as when the work is actually finally put in? Or,
yeah, like from like the first talk with you, the first visit, to this work is done and now I'm better, efficient, I am getting my rebate, like all of these things are done.
Oh, well, it usually falls on the analysis is pretty quick. Then sometimes there's sticker shock, maybe not. I think that it's not a good word to use, but maybe the construction cycle or the sales cycle or whatever, how the cycle would, a lot of times the cycle is where, like, maybe in your church, Bob, you think about it, there are services out there, especially through the utility, there are services out there that are free, and that's your first step. You get the idea, you get the service, and now you have Bob and a handful of congregants that are interested, but there's more people you have to convince. So I think it all depends on the facility or the ownership of the facility. Some people come with money in hand ready to roll. Others need to figure out what it's going to cost first and then try to fund it. So, but I mean, usually once the client pulls the trigger, it moves pretty quickly.
Yeah, so for us, I mean, from the time we come out and do the assessment, depending on the complexity of the project, we can often have a quote within 2 weeks. And then it's from the moment the congregation says go or the client says go, typically it's 6 to 8 weeks from then until installation is completed. And that would allow us time to get the materials in and to take care of the rebate application and get it on our schedule with the other jobs that we have to do. And then the rebate itself, often it goes another 2 or even 2.5 months after the completion of the project until that rebate money comes back to the client.
I will say one thing: if you're doing the work on your own, or even if you're doing it with like Dawn or something like it, keep track of all your invoices. Keep track of, because utility company is going to ask you for proof of purchase. Now, Don, I'm sure his company keeps track of all that for you. If anybody's going to do something on your own, you got to make sure you keep track of that, because the utility company is going to ask you for proof of purchase. And also in the state of Pennsylvania, there is I think it's a 180-day window. I'm not sure if it's still there or not, that you have to apply for a rebate within, I think it's apply within 180 days. So so it's easier to keep track of it, even if you're keeping track of it in a shoebox, than to go try to dig up all that information later on.
One thing that we got hung up on was that we had one estimate for the fixtures, the hardware, and another for the labor. And I don't know if that's typical or not, but so we had one supplier of the lamps and the fixtures, and then we had to get a bid on the labor. And we thought at least one bid, was probably a contractor, that this was small potatoes and they didn't really want to do it, maybe, and it seemed like a high bid. And then there was somebody else that, sort of did little work, and it was probably too much, so we did get a little bit hung up there. We might have actually done it way back then if we had felt more comfortable. So I don't know what you two guys can say about that aspect.
That sounds complicated. I mean, one of the selling points for how we do things is that we basically take care of everything for you. We get the materials,
Yeah.
we apply for the rebate for you. You don't need to save anything in shoeboxes. We take care of everything for you. So it's a turnkey system where you get new lights and we take care of it.
Okay, well, you might be hearing from us. Thank you. All right.
I like that kind of. I don't like keeping receipts. My wife is much better at that than I am. So thank you both, Greg and Don, for everything. I really appreciate your presentations. Like I said, I am going to go to my congregation and show them both and see if I can convince them. But I also wanted to drop into the chat just one last thing. I had mentioned earlier our collaboration with the Climate Action Campaign. They have this petition that we have been trying to push out. If you feel moved to sign it, that would be great. It would count towards our overall deliverables. But also, if you have people in your congregation that you could introduce it to, it's a very simple way to obviously put your might, both individual and collective, behind pressuring administration officials to, really do the bold action for climate change that we need so direly right now. I also always love these kinds of events because I think that it allows us to do our part, as individuals and within our congregations. I think that there's a lot to be said for that collective. If every one of us does LED, if every one of us does an audit, if every one of us does that, it doesn't solve it overnight, but it sure as hell helps. And then also the other side of it would be things like this petition, which is get the legislation, get the policy, get the companies to also take the responsibility seriously. So two sides of the same coin, right? But I really appreciate you all coming out tonight. If you have any additional questions, obviously you can shoot me an email at director@paipl.org or at our generic email address info@paipl.org. As I said, our next quarterly meeting won't be until June, so I hope to see you between now and then, either at another chapter event, another petition signing, letter writing, our bike ride and hike, something along the way. But thank you again for all being here, and have a very, very glorious beginning to your spring.